I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old on Old. This is a weekly series where each and every week I look at a classic film and I sort of decide, A, does it hold up? And sort of look at it from a 2018 viewpoint. These are movies that I've never seen before, so I've seen the classics like Casablanca and Citizen Kane, of course they hold up, but I'm seeing a lot of these movies for the very first time because I'm in this unique period. So I'm seeing a lot of classic movies, and I wanted to sort of use this outlet as a way to have my thoughts and to sort of express my thoughts from a sort of 2018 viewpoint and see if these classic movies hold up to a person who's seeing it like myself for the very first time. And this week we're looking at Basic Instinct. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Connor, why are we doing Basic Instinct? I thought we were doing classic movies. Well, the definition of classics is sort of fluid for a lot of people. I like to do older movies, but next week, for example, I think I'm going to be doing Superman, so that should be a lot of fun. I haven't seen that yet, but that's a 1978 movie, so that's even some people may say somewhat recent. But I just try to do movies that I think are classics because they stay in the cultural relevancy. That being said, this will probably be the earliest film I'm going to do, but I'm doing it because of multiple reasons. One, and the main reason, is I'm doing a Paul Verhoeven miniseries, or not miniseries, Masters of Control of Chaos. Uh, Paul Verhoeven is a fascinating filmmaker, and because of a miniseries I listened to, the Blank Check podcast, Blank Check with Griffin and David, they just did a Paul Verhoeven miniseries where they broke down his English-speaking films, and that sort of got me interested and sort of delved deep into Paul Verhoeven and really learned a lot about him from that podcast and from some of the research I did. So I decided that would be a great episode, and that'll be coming up this Sunday. So like I said, Masters of Control Chaos come out once a month, the first Sunday of the month, and then these videos come out every single week. So that should be a lot of fun, and I'll talk a little bit about Verhoeven here, but really get more into depth in there. But Basic Instinct, another two reasons that this film is, in my opinion, at least a cultural classic. I mean, this is one of those movies where, when it was released at its time, the critics weren't really hot on it, but it really struck a chord with audiences. Say, the modern-day Greatest Showman. It made, I think, it made $353 million at the box office, which adjusted for inflation is about $561 million, which is really this sort of cultural landmark. And like I said with Gone with the Wind, it's hard for me to even believe this number. It's sort of like Basic Instinct was like one of the highest grossing movies of that year. Like, what? It was a superhero movie, or was it something like that? It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that. So many people want to go and see this movie. But I really enjoyed this movie. It's a genre that doesn't really exist today, aside from maybe the 50 Shades movies. I mean, those are really bad and really sort of campy. This movie is sort of a little more intelligent about that, but it still has that sort of pulpy feel to it. But that being said, it's a Verhoeven movie, so there's a lot going on underneath, which if you don't know about Paul Verhoeven, I'll talk about a little bit next week, but that's what he's sort of known for, is having these sort of surface level, sort of entertaining movies, but when you go underneath, there's sort of social satires and commentaries on certain genres or on society and certain things, certain topics, things that are going on. And this movie really sort of utilizes the tropings of the noir genre and really sort of the American culture's, I think, perception with sex in particular. This is because, for the most part, sort of generalizing, a movie may say a movie has nudity, has an automatic R, but it'll have the Ready Player One movie, which I just recently saw. Really enjoyed the movie, but it had like 3 shits and 1 fuck, and it was like, wow. That's a PG-13, but if someone's nude, automatic R, right? So we have here in Canada and in the States have sort of this misperception of sex versus violence. We'll easily have a movie that has a lot of violence and give it PG-13 versus a movie that has a little bit of nudity and no violence and give that an R. So I think he was sort of commenting on that and really using sex as this powerful tool in this sort of erotic thriller genre, which is a genre that doesn't really exist, like I said. But really, it's something that I really enjoyed because we talked about this in De Palma before, and Verhoeven does this in a certain sense, which is using his time period and using his ability to show a lot of things to his advantage. I mean, we're always getting sort of more liberal throughout the years. Damn was a bad word. We talked about that, and Gone with the Wind now is sort of the big word of the day. Now, Basic Instinct, they're having like, a bunch of sex, and it's on murder and crime and a mystery, and that's what I've alluded to this before in De Palma's the De Palma Masters of Control Chaos, but Hitchcock, for example, his movies were very much thriller and mystery, and then they added that romance level, which sort of elevated it. Now, these movies have the sort of murder and the mystery, but they also, instead of having the romance, having sort of the sex aspect to it. And really, when you talk about this movie, you can't talk about Sharon Stone. I mean, you have the iconic leg sort of crossing scene, which was, I think, the most paused moment in movie history, which is kind of crazy. And she was just this huge star. I mean, this really made her a star. Um, it's crazy to see sort of how we don't see her a lot nowadays. But she's an incredible actress in this movie, and really, I mean, this is a star-turning performance, because you can't talk about the movie without her, because, in my opinion, she's the best part of this movie by far. She is so engaging and mysterious, and it does such an interesting thing where she's the number one suspect, because the movie's about a detective played by Michael Douglas looking for a killer who killed this man, and Sharon Stone was the boyfriend of this man, and sort of like a linked sort of sex motivated crimes, and they sort of go through this mystery, and then Michael Douglas and her start to build a relationship, and then it gets sort of mucky and sort of like hazy, like he sort of can't separate her from the case, and then sometimes he wants to separate, but then he can't. And it's just an interesting thing, because how she plays the character, what she does is, she's the number one suspect. She's sort of the most obviously one doing it. Like, she's not even saying no to, did you kill her? She's not saying, no, it wasn't me. She's sort of giving these mysterious answers, these sort of riddles. She's very sort of an enigma in that sense. And really use that to her power. She has an incredible amount of intelligence, but she's smart, because because she's smart, she knows that she can use her sex appeal to sort of get away from things, sort of distract, in a sense, people, and really sort of seduce and lure in this sort of almost like fantasy type way. You think of like mermaids in the sea. I mean, they're sort of like that, where they'll lure you in with their good looks and their intelligence, but then once you're in there, the mermaids are horrifying, right? That's the whole sort of aspect of the mermaid. And she really plays this well. But really, I think Michael Douglas plays that great straight man, but Sharon Stone is really sort of the mastermind of this movie, and the movie goes through so many twists and turns. Yes, it does have maybe one too many twists and turns. I think there's a wrench they throw into the third act that doesn't work and sort of takes me out of base, but I think really this is sort of a character study of this interesting person, and we are so engaged with the movie, and it really is because of her performance. We're engaged with her because we want to essentially figure her out the same way I want to figure out Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. I want to figure out Sharon Stone's character here, and sort of, did she do it? I mean, I like the detective movies and the noir sort of genre. This is less noir inspired than you think. I think is actually more of sort of a commentary about sex and over sexualization. I think it's sort of a gateway to that showgirls, that really sort of showgirls sort of satire that Verhoeven really explores. This is very much less of his satires. That being said, I still think it's a great movie. Really interesting sort of erotic thriller. And then, there has been complaints about its complicated storytelling, but in that sense, I sort of establish that and sort of relate that to something like Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible, the original, is really a great movie. I really love that movie. And its story is really all over the place. There's a lot of spies, right? So there's intertwining stories and all this stuff. And we see this a lot of the times with the detective genre. One of my favorite TV shows, if not my favorite TV show of all time, True Detective, has a lot of sort of red herrings and sort of things that lead you one way, and it's sort of confusing. And wait, what about this? You didn't tie this up, and shouldn't this happen? And there are some things, I know some people are sort of mad about that. The first season, at least, the finale. That's what I kind of love about the detective genre, is that there's so many things. You become so invested in these characters, in the Michael Douglas sort of case, and his partner, I think it's Gus, or I think, his case to sort of find this killer. But then the case almost becomes secondary, and it's really this relationship between these two characters, and the dialogue scenes that play out between these two is sort of like a game of chess, a game of mind chess. Of course, there's the incredible mirror shots where at some point some person knows that they're being looked at, but the other person doesn't know that they're looking at them. It's like weird sort of mind trickery and really messes with your head, and just a really enjoyable erotic thriller that doesn't really exist. And I'm glad I went back to see it, because at this time with this and something like Fatal Attraction, it was this unique genre of this erotic thriller, and this one was the biggest one of them all. So, anyways, guys, make sure to check out the Paul Verhoeven miniseries, which is coming out on Sunday. That should be a lot of fun. And tell me what you think of Basic Instinct. Do you think it's an overrated one? It's one of those ones that, the critics don't recommend as one of their favorite movies of all time. But I wanted to watch it the same way with maybe with Gone with the Wind, where it's such a cultural moment. It's good to know sort of the landscape at that time for even a film history perspective. I recommend this movie. I really enjoyed it more than I actually thought I would. But anyways, guys, I'm Connor Old. Make sure you like the video, comment below. Let me know what you think of the movie and what movie they should do next. I'm open to hear suggestions. And until next time, stay tuned.